The 6th century had remarkable achievements, but 536 AD overshadowed them all. Known as the darkest year of the Dark Ages, it nearly brought humanity to its end.
In the mid-6th century, a Roman statesman named Cassiodorus documented something he could barely understand. In a written account, he described a horrifying event, a darkness so pervasive that at midday people could not even see their own shadows. Across Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, people witnessed what seemed like a world suddenly plunged into night. Cassiodorus was not alone. Countless other observers noted the same thing, creating one of the greatest historical mysteries humanity ever recorded. What terrified ancient witnesses most was how abruptly the darkness arrived. There was no gradual dimming, no days or weeks of warning. One day the sun simply ceased to behave as it had before. A thick, impenetrable blanket seemed to hang over the world, but no one understood its origin. To them, it felt supernatural, punishment from the gods, an omen, or the beginning of the world's end. Modern research offers a far clearer answer. In 2008, a study published in Geophysical Research Letters examined sulfur trapped in Greenland ice layers. This evidence led scientists to one conclusion: a massive volcanic eruption somewhere in the northern hemisphere spewed ash into the sky, creating what ancient people believed was fog. Whether the eruption took place in Iceland or Alaska remains debated, but its consequences were undeniable. Ash clouds spread across vast territories, blocking the sun. To people living then, this ash cloud looked like a new type of fog, but darker, heavier, and terrifyingly persistent. Testimonies described the sky fading to a dim, bluish hue. The sun shone weakly, like an eclipse that continued day after day. The Roman historian Procopius wrote that the sun gave light without brightness, echoing reports from countless regions. Many said the dim sun looked spectral, pale, and unnatural. Worst of all, the darkness stayed, not for days, not for months, but for approximately 18 months. Humanity entered something like a year-long night. As sunlight faded, temperatures plunged. Winters became brutally cold, and the decade that followed was the coldest the Northern Hemisphere had seen in 2 millennia. However, the suffering was not limited to winter. When summer arrived, it was unrecognizable. Temperatures dropped by more than 35 degrees Fahrenheit in some regions. In China, summer snowfall was recorded, a surreal event that marked the beginning of widespread crop failure. The result was a chain reaction of ecological disaster. Without sunlight, photosynthesis slowed dramatically. Plants withered, grasses died, and forests thinned. Herbivores struggled first. Their food sources evaporated, and populations plummeted. Insects declined as well, reducing pollination and further collapsing plant life. Even microbial organisms in soil slowed their activity due to freezing conditions, interrupting nutrient cycles. Because seasons blended together into a single grim climate, animals dependent on natural cycles reacted chaotically. Migratory birds lost their signals to fly south, leading to catastrophic behavioral disruptions. Ocean life suffered too. Marine plankton declined, threatening food security for coastal communities. Livestock suffered due to dying grasslands, and human settlements relying on grazing animals faced severe shortages. Starving carnivores grew desperate. Wolves and other predators abandoned forests and began roaming into villages searching for food. Conflicts between humans and wild animals became frequent, a tragic consequence of ecological imbalance. agriculture collapsed across continents. A medieval chronicle described grain scarcity so severe that even minuscule amounts could not be found. Famine stretched from Europe to Scandinavia to Asia. Some records described 3 consecutive years without bread. And while wealthy elites survived better, no class was untouched. As starvation grew, societies weakened, economies shrank, currencies destabilized, and trade routes crumbled. Empires lost the ability to defend borders, shifting the political map dramatically. When the so-called fog finally lifted after 18 months, people rejoiced, but the damage was already carved into history. Even worse suffering awaited. Just years after sunlight returned, a devastating plague emerged, an early bubonic outbreak in 541 AD. Millions died. Modern scholars believe rodents flourished during the ecological collapse, spreading disease across urban centers. The Byzantine Empire, already strained, lost between 1/3 and 1/2 of its population. Some historians argue that the volcanic winter, the famine, and the plague collectively accelerated the Roman Empire's downfall. Thus, many scholars view the year 536 AD as the beginning of one of humanity's darkest eras, the true dawn of what would later be called the Dark Ages. The event left deep psychological scars. Norse mythology includes the idea of Fimbul winter, a sunless period before doomsday, almost certainly inspired by these conditions. Archaeologists have found hoards of gold buried in Scandinavia during this era, believed to be offerings begging the gods to restore sunlight. Interestingly, when historians first discovered medieval accounts of dim skies and a vanished sun, many dismissed them as exaggerations or poetic metaphor. That changed in the 1990s, when tree ring studies in Ireland revealed stunted growth patterns. Trees grew less because summers never warmed. Later, researchers uncovered volcanic traces in ice cores, finally validating ancient accounts. Some scientists even speculate that more than one eruption may have occurred, possibly multiple events compounding the disaster, suggesting that we may still not fully grasp the scale of the catastrophe. What we do know is how long its echoes lasted. In Europe, conditions began stabilizing around 660 AD, but in parts of Central Asia, recovery took another 20 years, meaning some people lived and died having never experienced normal sunlight. For this reason, historians continue to debate which period was the worst in human history. Some nominate the Black Death or the 1918 influenza pandemic, but for many scholars, 536 AD remains the front-runner, not just for its suffering, but for how profoundly it reshaped civilization. Yet in this bleakness lies a message. Humanity endured. Against famine, disease, and ecological collapse, people adapted, survived, and rebuilt. The forgotten apocalypse reveals the resilience of life on Earth, even when nearly everything collapses. If you want to explore more hidden stories and turning points in history, make sure you like, subscribe, and keep discovering with us on History Expose. And don't forget to explore our parent page Fact Date for more unbelievable historical facts.